Okay, hello. My name is Franklin. I will be back in a minute. I'm just doing this to test the actual audio quality and video quality since it's been a minute since I did this. So BRB. Okay. Hello. My name is Frank. I showered, which is why I am wet. And yeah. I make games. I haven't streamed in a hot minute, and we're back. Kind of. I hope, a little more permanently. It's been a crazy few weeks. I burnt the shit out of myself, meaning mentally, and so hopefully we're kind of back. Hopefully we're kind of back. I Yeah, what have I been up to? I usually, for those of you who are new, I start the first hour of the stream with sort of personal stuff. I say hour, it's like really until I run out of stuff to talk about. Um, but I talk about things that I did from the last time I ended stream to today. And I don't even remember the last time I actually streamed. It's been a hot minute. Um, so yeah, what have I done? I went to a couple of concerts. I know last time I streamed, I actually talked about how I went to a Ross Lynch The Driver Era show. And continuing in the series of Frank going to Twink concerts, I saw the band Benches with the band I Don't Know How. And honestly, it was okay. I saw them in San Francisco at the August Hall. The venue was great, but the vibes were kind of off. I don't really know how to describe it. The vibes were interesting. Um, I wanted to see Benches. I went for the opening band. I like I don't know how's music, but I don't care for it as much as I do Benches. And the sound that Benches had, it was obvious that it wasn't set up for them. I've seen them where they were headlining, and it was a lot better. Whereas I don't know how. The sound was amazing, very loud. Not the loudest show I've seen, but it was up there. It was up there. My hair doesn't know what it wants to do. When I say the vibes were off, it seems like the I don't know how guy wants to be a teenage heartthrob, and I don't really particularly know how to feel about that. It's given like 2022 Wilbur Soot vibes, where it's like, I can't personally pin anything on him, but if something came out about him, I wouldn't be too surprised. I don't know, that might be slander, but it's just the vibes were off. I'm trying to like pin it on something. I'm not personally sure. So yeah, so that was fun. It was a good show. It just, would have been cooler if the vibes were a little bit better. Yesterday I went to a doctor for the first time in like 2 years, and they were like, "Hey, you got to get a pneumonia shot." And I was like, "Cool." I don't know why. They said, "You're asthmatic." And I was like, "Yeah, that makes sense." And then they gave it to me, and I think 2 hours later I had a fever. And I had a fever until early this morning. So it was great. I didn't sleep the best, but we're here. What better conditions than an afternoon outside the normal time slot for me to stream? We're here. I also, if this arm stays put for most of the stream, it's really sore. So that's probably related. And then last, I because I was just in bed with a fever for most of the night, I watched Indiana Jones 5, The Dial of Destiny, and it's not bad. It's a really slow movie. It's a classic 2023, 2.5 hours, but I didn't hate it. I think it had moments that were better than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. It doesn't come anywhere close to the first three though. It's unfortunate, but it's the truth, I think. Yeah, it's like Pirates of the Caribbean 5, where it clears 4 in most aspects, but at the same time, it doesn't get anywhere near the first 3. So, oh well. I'm not a movie critic. I thought it was fun. I'm a nostalgia head. It's like one of my top 3 emotions, I think. So, it was cool. All right. That is all of the stuff that I actually like care to talk about my personal life, because honestly, everything has been happening and not too much has been happening at the same time. I don't know if that's relatable to anyone, but it's just a feeling like you're just exhausted, but nothing's really happening. So let's do something about that. Let's get into today, which means that I gotta not flashbang everyone, even though it's already happened. Wow, that was weird. I don't know why that all happened. There we go. Okay, so what are we doing today? It's been a minute since we really did. Oh God, every time my handwriting gets worse. Today, it's been a minute since we actually did a stream, and what I want to work on today is something that has been plaguing me since January, and that is client-side prediction. So what we're actually going to work on first is skyboxes. And then we'll do client-side prediction. So skyboxes is just because there was a free Unity asset a week ago, and I want to give it a shot. One of the things considerably lacking in my maps, despite the fact that they're demo maps and they don't need to be great yet, is the fact that they don't really have skyboxes. So we're going to do that first. It should take like 15 minutes, but it'll be fun. And then we're going to do client-side prediction, and I'll show that later. There's absolutely no way all of this is going to get done. If anything, we're going to take something that already works and just alter it a couple of ways to get a few steps closer to something that is resembling what I want to use. Yeah. But it's not going to happen. It's not going to be fully done. This is something that is going to basically require the complete revision of my character controller, which I've already spent like 2 months on. So it's not all going to happen in one day, but hopefully it'll happen in less than 2 months. Also, warning for anyone who's watching, it's going to be a short stream. Hard cap 4:30. I have stuff I gotta do, so we got a good 2 hours and 20 minutes to do this. So I guess let's jump in. I have a different project open, which means that I have to slyly open the Unity hub and open up the correct project here. And once we get a little splash screen, I can close that. Cool. Whew. Yeah, I mean, while we wait, I mean, I guess I haven't done too much. I posted a couple shorts that popped off. It's kind of, I say popped off. They did better than they usually do. And it's kind of nice that the ones that tend to pop off are the ones related to the game or game development. I mean, it's almost like I structure my entire channel and brand around that, but it's nice that, you know, if I just post something that isn't adjacent to one of those things, it does okay. So, yeah. God, this thing is taking a long time to load. The other thing is I want to make sure that we get our VS Code instance up and good. There's nothing too serious when we pull off the screen and make sure. Let's see where we are. Oh God, I did a lot of just kidding. No, I thought that I updated a bunch of prefabs. I did not update a bunch of prefabs. So we'll take that. Okay. Boop. And now I can bring that back over here. This is an ancient practice known as trying not to dox yourself. I would never do that on stream. No. Okay. We don't need to worry about that one. No, it's gonna take a minute. Okay. So we're kind of just using the default skybox for a lot of these maps, and let me pull up the link. So last week, there's a guy who posts all these on Reddit, but this was the free asset for the week, and actually it might still be either that or no, it's not. It's a physics kit, which I would love to check out, but I actually don't know how to properly implement most of these things, and I don't need it for my game, so it'd be cool to check out, but not today. 2 weeks ago, when I was planning on streaming, skyboxes, you know, really kind of nice looking, neat skyboxes, and it says super simple, so hopefully that means it's super simple and we can implement them. Yeah. Easy to use script that lets your sun lamp rotate to simulate a day-night cycle. And that's actually something that I'm going to want to implement in some of the maps. Or at least have it be a setting. Okay. I have a bunch of things off screen. So there's 4 maps in the game that actually can benefit from a new skybox, and let me actually open it. Okay, we'll do it manually. Package manager. It's not in the Unity registry, it's in mine. Skybox. Super simple skybox. Okay. So the only issue with it is 135 megabytes. So we'll download it. Okay, well that's going. We do have a few maps that we're going to want to add skyboxes to. Obviously, this is the test multiplayer map, which is very, very basic. Very, very basic, and uses the default skybox. If we load up this map also uses the default skybox. It's kind of hidden because we have mountains in the way. This map is ripping off a Halo Reach Forge map. And then we have our training ground, which again uses the default skybox, which is why this asset is kind of perfect for me right now, is because honestly, like, these are demo maps, but let's give them some flair, because one thing I do need to learn is how to make decent maps. So I'm going to import this package, and then we'll get going. We'll see how long it takes. I also want to see if there's documentation for it. But it says it's plug and play. If I could drag the thing over, I would show you, but because Unity's importing, you can't touch it at all. It says plug and play. So hopefully we're able to just easily go in and, like, here we go. Plug and play, drag and drop a skybox material into your Unity scene's skybox material slot. Cool. SAS is perfect for low poly skybox, which is probably where we're going to end up. Stylized or realistic, you can get the look you want. And then all the shaders are free. Cool. Cool. Okay. So let's go back out of here. And where did they put it? In assets, it's not there. It is a package. Super simple skyboxes. There we go. Now let's go to our lighting tab, and let's make sure that we only have one scene open. So here we have our samples. This is, I guess, the material that says super simple skybox, and let's let it load. Hey, that looks like a okay skybox. And I can't tell, but it looks like the clouds are moving. Looks like it. How does this work then? So we take our simple skybox. Okay. So I think we're going to want to duplicate these for whenever we actually have a skybox. Like for each map, we're going to want to create its own instance of these. So if we go to gameplay, to maps, and then a training ground, I'm just going to paste this right here. And call it training ground skybox, if I could type. There we go. And then that's the one that we can put in here. That way, if we edit the material, it doesn't change all of the skyboxes. It just changes one. And now we can look at this. Color mode, we have day and night colors, constant. I'm going to leave it day and night colors. The ground is enabled. Yeah. Okay, so that just cuts it at the floor. That's fine. Moon settings. I don't know how to. Ooh. We're basically just going to be playing around with this. The horizon sky blend. I actually like it here. That's similar to what I grew up with, so I'm okay with that. We can change the ground height. I'm going to leave that set at a little less than 0. And then the fade amount, I think it was good. I wonder where the sun is. Oh, hi. Because I don't see the sun. The only thing that is concerning for me are these like two, if you look straight up, particles, but it looks like they go away. Clouds enabled. We can turn those off. I'm gonna leave clouds on. Where did those go? Boom. Oh, and we have a manual. I didn't even know you could put links in the inspector. Okay, hi. Can you actually give me the manual? Documentation. Cool. You know what? I'm gonna actually just leave this and let's play around with it. Let's see what it looks like. If we just go right into the training ground. It definitely looks better. I don't know. I mean, everything in the game right now is super simple, so having something that actually looks decent is kind of almost always interesting. It does look like there's a vortex forming at the top. There we go. Boom. So I wonder. I don't know what any of these mean. I also want to know how, because they say it's good for like low poly. How do we get it to be low poly? Events. Oh, you can actually set events. Oh, that's cool. Like for when the sun sets and the sun rises. So neat. Okay, let's look at some different clouds. It said there's gotta be a good low poly one. It always looks like a vortex though. That's a lot of clouds. That is very interesting, just to say the least. Oh, there is a lot of clouds. Is it? I wonder if there is a way to make it so that we don't have as much of a vortex forming in the middle. Like, that is super apparent, and that looks very ominous, and it looks very cool on its own. It's a cool little effect, but making it look like all the clouds go up towards the center is maybe not what I want. Okay. There's sunset settings. Yeah, I wonder if there is a way to make it so that this is not... Oh, that's... Sorry. Apologies. That is for speed. Scale. Oh, it has to be an integer. Okay. I don't remember what it was. It was 2. Okay. Well, I guess for now we'll just leave that. It's gonna be okay. We're gonna have to stylize the skybox a little bit more when we actually come up with an art style, which is actually something I've been thinking about a little bit. And I think low poly is probably the play, because I am a programmer and I'm not an artist, so it's probably the play. Yeah, I'm also a little like, I like the skybox. I'm a little underwhelmed by it. So I think we'll actually just move into the client-side prediction, because honestly, it's what I want to work on more. It really is what I want to work on, just a tad bit more. So we'll move to that, which is going to require closing this project and opening another one. So we'll say check. Oh, I should have left it open. It's fine. It's fine. Let me pull this to the side and let's pull up a little demo. And hopefully I've built this recently enough that it works, but not too recently that it's a little broken. Okay, I'm gonna create 2 instances of this and then we'll connect them together. So we'll make this one the host. Just set it to the training ground so we know the map. And this will be the person who joins. So this is the host. This one that is actively moving right now, this is the host. And you can see that moving around the map, super fluid. It's really nice. I think there might be, nope, no issues when we teleport. Everything works exactly as you would sort of expect them to. I'm not going to go into a man cannon because those are extremely broken at the moment in a way that is not even related to this issue. Now, if I swap over to our client, we can do some moving around. We can even do some sprinting and moving around. There's obviously a desync here. But once the desyncs start, it's like every time we move, there's a little snap back into our position whenever we stop moving. And then they get better for a while. but ultimately, I believe that we just have a desync on our hands. Like, it's good for the most part, but there are just like I know that was a blatant one. If we go through that, there's a pretty clear desync. Like that, you can see the camera flicker, so it's something that's supposed to be happening instantaneously. And of course, since it has to get validated on the server, it can't really happen instantaneously. It needs checking time. So that is, a further example of something that's going to need to be fixed. Let's see if I can get it to happen when we fly. I'm calling them the jitters. It really realistically is just a desynchronization from the server. Oh, we died. Gonna need some time before I respawn and now get set even further back. I just want to show off really quickly the snapback, the jitter, the everything that I am having an issue with, and how that is basically what we want to solve. There's a little bit of a jitter when we enter and exit gravities, which is a significant problem, because something that is already maybe something that can make someone motion sick is now stuttery. And the worst thing that you can do when designing something that could potentially make someone motion sick is decrease the frame rate. And that's why it took like VR so long to catch on, because we have to get the frame rates there. So that's sort of the issue, is that we have this jittering. And when I rebuilt the character controller in January, it was originally client-side authoritative, which just meant that you would do all the movement stuff on your computer and then send that information to everyone, which should work, but for some reason had a bunch of desynchronizations. And so I was like, hey, we should maybe fix this. And I think one way to prevent desynchronizations, or at least make them a lot less common, so it's only you desyncing from the server, is to make everything client-side predictive and server authoritative. And this just means that every time that our client would move, we would then send simulation data or input data to the server, and we would run two simulations in parallel, and then the server would then calculate where you would move at the same time and send that back to you. And you would have no issues if the code was running the same on both. But anything that isn't exactly the same between this simulation and this simulation would cause a desynchronization. And so the goal of probably the next couple of weeks is to completely implement this in a way that's working, so we don't get desynchronizations. So I created a little GitHub project because it takes like 3 minutes to build Castle Wars at the moment, which is not terrible. But because we're going to need to be testing things over a network, we need 2 instances. And let me just build this really quick to show you why we chose this. It'll be done in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Just kidding. Okay, so about 10 seconds. Yeah, 9 seconds. And then we have a built exe, which we can load. There we go. And so that exe automatically makes a server. And this is an example that I did not make. This is included in the Easy Character Movement 2 package, which if you've watched me before, you've heard before. It's what I'm using for movement. It's basically the core of the character controller. I've sort of aggregated a bunch of features that they have and made them into one character controller, but it's a little messy. And here we have what's a mostly working character. There is some amount of lag here, which is actually interesting. Or at least there was at startup. Whereas if we have these 2 characters, everything actually is synced. There is a almost non-existent amount of ping. But to some extent, this is like how it's supposed to be. This is best case scenario, and we have that with Castle Wars, and we're not getting what effectively looks like just 2 replications of the same game. So I want to take this example and slowly fold it out until we have a first-person character controller that can move, jump, crouch, and sprint. And it doesn't desync, and it's this smooth. And then once we're there, we can slowly start adding in other features like dashing and sliding, and more complex features like teleporting and flying and planet gravity and ladders and man cannons, and basically just slowly start piling everything that we have back in. But I do believe that since we can actually just desync Castle Wars by moving around, we don't need to do sprinting, jumping, dashing, or anything sort of complex to get it to desync. That starting from something that has at least some amount of movement that doesn't desync will be good for us. And it'll just be a good starting point. So what is sort of the plan? Now, here's sort of what got us into this situation. I started developing the prototype that I'm currently working on with Castle Wars when FishNet was just moving on to version 4 from version 3, and they had a prediction system, but they were in the process of rewriting it. So I was sort of holding on until it had matured a bit more, and it has matured a bit more. This version of Easy Character Movement 2 is actually newer than the one that I'm using in Castle Wars. And so, unfortunately, things are different. The character doesn't work exactly the same, so I can't just upgrade it. And also, the prediction system has changed. So the code that I wrote is assuming that we're using an older prediction system, and that's just not true. And even then, let's assume I did everything right. I didn't. Like, the prediction code I wrote didn't really work back then. I just assumed that it was issues with the prediction system in the networking solution, and it's not. It's an issue with my code, which is what usually happens. And so this is a very good opportunity for me to figure out how to actually make a character controller that is client-side predictive and get it working right. Once it's working, then we can sort of cool it on the networking library updates. We can just lock into one specific version and one version of the character controller and build out from that. So that's sort of the goal. How are we going to get there? So my idea, and let me actually just supersize Obsidian so I can show it off. God, there's so much here. Okay, so this is sort of my idea. So we have client-side prediction as the whole goal. FishNet has something called a prediction rigid body, which we might want to look into. Then we want to see if we can build an Easy Character Movement 2 character class, or just steal their character movement component, which is actually what their example does. Then we want to implement the physics rigid body, because it seems like that is the way that they are moving forwards with character controllers. Then I want to split the player character into pawn and driver. And I mean, scripting setup wise, I've already moved everything into a player driver, but we have all of these values that control our simulation, and then we do our actual simulate call here. So it would be just abstracting a lot of this, making it look simpler, and moving all of this actual movement code to the pawn, which will be fine. And then I want to make it first person. So this is actually like a good bit. Right now, I mean, the example can move and can jump. So there's no crouching, there's no sprinting. But if we can get it working up to this point, we should be set to get sprinting and crouching set up. And the hardest part is going to be this. Mostly the deciding whether we're going to build a character class or if we're just going to use character movement. So I guess let's get started. I'm going to close out I'll leave MS Paint open. That's fine. Let's move these together. You can see that we have a player pawn which inherits from the character. Let me actually explain why I want to do this in a two script solution. God, I sound like I'm talking politics. So the reason I want to have a player driver and a player pawn is so that we can actually inherit from two classes at the same time. So we have a network behavior class, which will allow us to do all the prediction stuff and actually call FishNet network functions. And then we want to still have access to our character library. So this is, I can't show you all of it, but this is a huge 3,400 line script, which has almost anything you can need for any type of character controller. And then they just extend this to build on first person logic, third person logic, top down, whatever. And so this will just handle all of our inputs, and this is going to handle our simulation. That is ultimately the goal with these. And now we just got to figure out how to do it. So I want to read through the prediction rigid body thing really quick, because FishNet does have documentation for it. They say it's very straightforward, and that you can basically just initialize a rigid body and then use it just like a normal rigid body, and then simulate it in your prediction stuff. And then you also need to call reconcile. So yeah, let's see, I can kind of explain how FishNet as a networking library does prediction, and that is that we basically subscribe to a time manager tick, and every time that tick is called, we capture all of our inputs, send them to a simulate call, which automatically, when you give it this replicate tag, will send it, it'll run on your instance, but it will also send it to the server, and then the server will run with the same move data and state and stuff. That's fine. And then once this is done, we also have a call to reconcile. So on our tick, we build our movement data, we send that to simulate, and then if we're the server, we create reconciles, which just send package information, not package, player movement information and position, velocity, all that stuff in our reconcile, and we send that to all of the clients. So this is what will actually move. Well, this is what will calculate how we're moving, and this will actually move them server authoritatively. So yeah, that's sort of fun. That's sort of super fun. And it's working right now. We're just not using this character class at all. The prefab that they're using, which I've already created a copy of, just as a character movement component, and then they're calling functions on that. So we calculate all of these things that we might want, and then we take this character movement and we do things like tell it to jump or rotate towards something, which we'll want to get rid of this at all costs, and then we'll call simple move. But this is all of our actual movement code. We capture all of our inputs either in update or in the building of the movement struct. So, there's some places to do it. What I want to do is I want to see if we can actually abstract this. Who is texting me? The Democrats. I am not going to run for local office. Thank you very much. Yeah. So this is going to be a really fun series of streams, by the way, because I'm effectively learning stuff on stream and trying to turn that into entertainment for you guys. So I guess, let's see. This character movement component, does it have a rigid body? It does have a rigid body. Oh, there's a lot of rigid bodies. We want this one, which gets called 20 times. We get a component. We cache components, constraints, and that's it. Okay, let's look at this simple move, which they do this thing where they split the function calls up, and so this to me looks gross, but it's okay. Update the character's velocity using a friction-based physical model and move the character along its updated velocity. This performs collision constrained movement, resolving any collisions or overlaps found during the movement. Okay, so we have our desired velocity, which is we'll calculate beforehand. Then we have a max speed, acceleration, deceleration, all the stuff that we send in here. Really long call. and they actually do a really good way, or a really good thing of naming what will eventually become our parameters, so that we don't actually need to look at any of this stuff. Except for the Boolean, which is only horizontal. Yeah. And then it'll return collision flags, but we don't actually care about that. And then what does move do? Okay. So I guess first goal, that they aren't using a rigid body to do all of the movement stuff. So I would argue that we don't either, which is cool because it means that we can then just cross those off and more accurately delete them. But we still got to decide whether we want to use a character class or just character movement. Now, I've done some playing around with this, and I want to show off. I mean, I was able to get it somewhat working the other day. It just introduced a little bit of input lag, which is why I restarted. And then I made a Git repository because I'm a dumbass and should have done that originally. So we don't need to look at our structs. We don't need to look at this or this. We have our character movement, which is just there. Then we have that. I want to see if we just change this character movement. I want to see if we can just call a player pawn and use the character movement attached to that. And then we can drag a player pawn onto here. Boom time. And then that should all work. So instead of just straight getting it, we get it through our reference. And that alone, there is something that the character is doing that is causing us to slow down indefinitely. Or not indefinitely, but like, it's pretty clear that we're supposed to be moving faster. This is not satisfying at all. So somewhere in there, we get this character's character movement. Which is referenced in a few places. One is where we get it from. Enable physics interaction, apply push force. We do all of this stuff. Get component, that's fine. Get component. So the only things that I guess the character does is enable physics interactions, tell it whether to apply push and stuff, calculate our mass, calculate our push force scale, and impart platform velocity. So what are those? Are those actually controlled by our pawn here? Impart platform movement, rotation, gravity scale. Enable physics interaction, apply push force to characters. Does that fix anything? Because those are the only things that realistically can be changed by making it... Nope. By making it a... changing the reference to it. I mean, the other thing that would be interesting is rather than actually changing, here, I'll save both. I'll save this here, and then we'll Control Z a couple of times. I don't know why there was a simulate call there. Interesting. Where does it get it? I can't read. We will just, oh. Why does this says 17 references? I don't know. Okay, that's fine. We'll just do this. And then... Okay. There we go. So I want to see if we just by having a player pawn on this, if it changes our movement, because I think that's what it is. If we take our player pawn and we disable it and we start this, look at that. So it is changing some values. It is changing some values itself when we start. So I guess what values could it possibly be changing? I'm going to open this in two inspectors and we're going to lock them. And this one's going to just view the character movement. And this one's going to view our player pawn. Because honestly, it shouldn't be changing anything, really. What is root motion? No. Our mass is 1. Mass is 1. Push force. Unless it's that we don't have a camera. Which would be actually crazy. That would be cuckoo crazy. Like I don't really know if there's anything that it necessarily controls. Yeah, impart platform velocity, which just, I believe that this just gets called once when we validate. Unless, like seriously, unless there is a simulate call in here. Enable, ooh, if true, enables a fixed update call routine that simulates this character. Okay, how do I change that, actually? Like if I just go here, enable. Oh, well, we need to first off put this in something that will actually be called. Okay, fine. Public override void on. They just change them to be called awake. Okay, that's fine. Whoop. We can just get rid of that. This needs to be public. It's protected. And then we can just do a base dot awake call. And then we can say base dot enable auto simulation equals false. And I wonder if that is enough to get it to just work the way that we want it to work. Yeah. Okay, so it was trying to simulate itself. Cool. Okay, so then we'll just need to call simulate on ourselves. We can do public override void. Oh, there isn't one. Public void simulate. Which now it's not gonna get mad at me. Huh. Is there a simulate call in here? There is. But it's not an override. Ah, okay. So then we can just okay. Cool. Well, that means that we can at least change this so that we actually get the correct character movement or whatever. maybe we can just make a public void, call this move. Even though I'm pretty sure this also has one called move. No, character movement does. Okay, cool. So we can steal that. So we can call move here, and then this is what this will act as our simulate call. Okay, I want to confirm that this is still working smoothly even after we build it. So let's look in the editor. It's not saved. It's not saved. Okay, so we can still jiggle the character. I actually wrote down a couple of things. Let me pull this off to the side that I want to make sure that we don't interrupt. And one is no desyncs. So I will have to get really good at testing for these. And the other thing is no input lag. So if we can go left and right really, really quick, it should be about as snappy as it feels like it can be. So it works when we're the server. And now let's build it and see if it works there. Also, I think that this officially checks the box of, are we going to use the character or are we going to use just a character movement component? And I think I want to use a character. Okay. Look at that. I mean, it's a little, the rotation doesn't really like it, but that's not going to be an issue for us because we're not going to be snapping the player's head that fast. We're going to be controlling that with a first person mouse. And if we go, let me actually just show this off. So we have, now we have two guys. And if we stop the server on here, we can start it on here, start a client here. And you can see that it is moving about as in sync as it can be. Like I could even push this off to the side and then it feels like I'm playing on this instance. So there we go. Cool. Cool. And that means that we have decided, oh God, I need to fix my, it's just my daily Obsidian note. No biggie, just completely broke the whole thing. There we go. Okay. So now we get to do the fun part, which is splitting all of this code. And really it's just this and then removing anything that these are used for and putting that here because every single field here is something that this character has. And then we can just really easily get a reference to our player pawn. So private player pawn. I'm gonna actually not make this serialized and we'll put it here. And I'll just copy that. I don't know why they do it that way, but they do it that way. And then now when this gets set here, we can do player pawn equals that. And then we can just copy this, put that here, change this to a character movement. Bingo, bango, bongo. Grab our associated components. Boom. Oh man, my watch is, you can tell I've been focused because I haven't actually looked at my watch in over an hour. We'll take it. Okay. So now this should still work. Should still work. I need to get better at testing and not writing a bunch of code and then coming back and be like, well, it broke somewhere. Now I got to figure out where it broke. But if we just change one thing at a time, there we go. That's still snappy. Okay. All I did really was change how we reference things, so should be fine. Okay. Does this have a jump function? Yes. does. It does. And one thing, because we are now using a character, is we can convert all of this code to actually just use character functions rather than building its own thing. Rather than building its own thing, we're set. So if we do this and our player pawn dot can never jump, and okay, I should just look at what it was before. It was, oh, I'm holding Control Shift C. Character movement dot is grounded. Okay. Okay, so if we hit jump, we'll try and jump, actually. Oh, that's a method. So, boom. So we have a virtual void jump, which is fine. So we'll just need to do a public override void for jump. Base call, which just sets jump button pressed to true. And then the fun part is calling stop jumping. But it should be as easy now as, like, we'll build in a couple of things really quick, actually. I don't know. So we have jump input pressed, which gets checked for even in like can jump. I think that this all, we might need to like build all of this in ourselves, which will be not very fun. But do jump, which gets called probably in check jump input gets called where before simulation update. Okay, so then what we can do here is we can actually just if md.jump, we can do player pawn dot jump. We don't even need this call. We can just do that. Otherwise, it's false. We can do player pawn dot stop jumping. We can I'm gonna comment this out so we don't lose it just yet. That is not at all what I meant to type. There we go. And now we'll get to see if it works, and we get to see if it works on a client. Okay, look at that. I mean, the values are a little different, but look at that. That's working all right. We can jump. What is interesting is I don't think we actually ever call simulate. So I wonder if we were to call simulate, I mean, we'd have to effectively convert all of this to also use it. To use things that look like this. So I guess let's figure out how to do that. I mean, we're not really going to need to determine any of this. We'll just have to set the move direction, I think, and the desired velocity. So the move direction, we can do player pawn dot set movement direction, and then we can just steal this. Boom. And is there a way to set the desired velocity? Player pawn dot set velocity. That just sets the character's actual velocity. So we set the movement direction now, and then if I batch comment out some stuff, maybe just actually all of this. Boom, boom. I want to see what happens if we just do player pawn dot move, and we'll take in a float. Call this the delta time, and this will just actually call simulate with delta time. No, we don't even need this. We've already set this up. We can just do player pawn dot simulate. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We just gotta use it. Simulate, and then we can take this. We'll calculate this at the beginning. Okay, and then we don't even need this at all. Okay. Simulate delta time. Now, does that even work? Is going to be a good question, because all we did was take we changed how this works. And then that's it. Look at that. Well, the character still moves. It's still snappy. We can still jump. I mean, it feels a little different because we're not actually using any of the values that are required from it. But moment of truth, does it work on clients? Does jumping and moving around work on clients? And if it does, is there desyncs? Okay, so I created the server that is just running here, and now we'll create a client. It's still pretty snappy. I mean, we still have that like look issue that we were getting, but that's okay. I can still play it just as well as I'd want to. And then if we start client here, again, I could probably drag it over, and then, I mean, it feels like there's a little bit of input lag when I'm looking at the other client, but if I'm looking at this, we're golden. And if I go here, the second I hit, yeah, okay, cool. So that feels like it's working, which means that it is a good time to clean out this, clean out a few things. So let me just do some comments. Calculate the amount of time to simulate for. Oh, geez. Call simulate now that we've set up all of the character values. There we go. Okay. And this also means that some of these things should have 0 references, and actually all of these do. So we can get rid of that entirely. Whoa. Let's save. And I'm going to drag this off screen so I can get push. Or at least commit. Okay. And we're back. So where are we now? We're doing pretty good. In terms of how we're going, I showed the issues. This is everything for the stream, so it's more than just development stuff. We are going to use the character class, we split up the character into a pawn and a driver, and now we just gotta make it first person. And if we can do that, then it's a really good first day. The fact that I've not even I haven't even been live for an hour, and we have something that kind of works is pretty makes me pretty enthusiastic. Okay. I don't have that many Discord notifications. It's fine. All right. So now, how do we want to make this first person? So it's a good question. It's a very good question. We have some player pawn stuff, which we're going to need to actually update both of these when we do this. I know that we don't need to look at these actually. We're good here. We probably don't need to add anything here except input stuff. So or like look input stuff. So that's progress. Where is Unity? Here we are. Okay, so if I look up first person, there's 4 components. I'm gonna open all these up. No, I wish there was a way to open them behind Unity. And they're all named pretty much what you would think. So we have a first person character, which is not too long, and this actually it extends the character class. So we're going to be doing something very similar to this. I'm just going to explain an issue that we will eventually run into. Then we have a first person controller, which is about as long, but we can steal some of the input code from. So that's good. Ooh, it might be worth noting how those work now. That's fine. I'll pay attention to this. Then we have our character input, which I think this actually just takes everything from these 3. The first person controller takes. Is there stuff that controls pitch and yaw? Yes, which is in here. Is there input here? Yes. And is there look input also here? Yeah. So the first person controller just aggregates these 3 scripts. So I'm gonna get rid of the first person one, and we can just talk about each one individually as we add stuff in. So the first thing I want to do is add in basically move our camera perspective from this third person not locked perspective to our character. And so we gotta sort of learn what they do here. So they have a few things. They have it set up so that they store a camera parent. And when we look at, I bet if I go out here, I really just want to see the prefab. I don't really want to see the scene, but if we look at this first person character, it has an eye and a camera. And so let me deactivate this. We can look around and I can show off some stuff. So we have the ability to look around, which is a little laggy. I will say it's not as satisfying feeling, and I can explain why that's happening in a second. But what I want to explain is that we have a 3-item system, which holds rotation. Technically, the camera doesn't hold any rotation. If we move around, you can see up here, there is no rotation changing. However, on the eye, we should have rotation changing. We're still looking at that. Okay, so on the eye, we have rotation changing. On this camera, we have nothing changing. And on the first person character, we have rotation changing, but it's on the y-axis, which I always forget which one's pitch and which one's yaw. But this one controls x-axis, so it's looking like this. And this one controls rotation around this sort of axis. And this is great and fine and dandy, as long as the character stays upright in this position the entire time. And it does not work if we change the orientation of the character. You probably could have guessed that if based on the first half of that sentence. And so this is an issue I ran into when developing the last prototype's character controller. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually put another intermediary step in between here, and I'm going to call that the root. And so all of the rotation that gets handled here is going to be handled on the root, and then the eye rotation will stay the same. And then what that will do is allow us to actually rotate the first person character around like a planet or flip the gravity of it, and all of the look stuff is going to stay the same. And then if we teleport it and we say, hey, change the rotation of the player, the orientation that they are looking in is going to stay the same. It's not going to jolt 90 degrees one way because some of that rotation is handled by the player or is held on the player. So let's implement that. Unload. So we're going to need 2 transforms. I know this says game object, but if we look at not definition, the references, you can see that the only reference actually just takes the transform. And nowhere else is that used. So we're going to do a serialize field private transform, and we'll call this root pivot. And then we'll just duplicate this line and call it the eye pivot. Okay. Now that's all great and dandy. Okay, sorry, I was wondering how they handle, because they only handle, I mean, they add yaw input here, which controls rotation input. That's fine. So we are going to create 2 functions here, and I'm going to actually create a region. We'll call this look input and region, and we'll call this camera look. That way we can store everything in there and it's not just the input. So we're gonna need these 2 functions. We're gonna need add control pitch and add control yaw, which I'm gonna create these functions, and we're just gonna call them add yaw with a float value, because this is going to be coming from just a mouse delta. And then similarly a public void called add pitch with a float value. Now would it be better to just sort of add one of these components on? Probably. But what I want to do is possibly interject all of the input stuff in our player player drivers. That way we can possibly replicate it, because I actually don't know yet if we're going to need to replicate that information in order to accurately move our character. Okay, so we have these, and I'm going to create a couple of floats. Programming time. Float, max pitch, and then we can create one called, speed private. Create one called min pitch. And then we're going to do the, we don't need to do the same thing for yaw. So pitch is how much we can look this way, I believe. Yeah, that makes sense, because y is around the y-axis. And so we want to limit how far we can look down, so we can't do flips. and how far we can look up. So we only need these for pitch. So now we have these. We can just straight, because these are going to have references to our root and our eye. And so our eye pivot can take the place of that. And then our camera pitch, which is just going to be saved somewhere. And this is going to get, this is going to happen on this update. Camera parent rotation. Which happens on late update. Okay. Fine. We'll follow their structure. Public, void. I guess they made it protected. Update camera rotation. They call it the camera parent rotation, but we have some more stuff. And so we'll take this and we'll put this here. And I believe, let me pull up another VS Code instance of Castle Wars. In our player driver here, there's so much here. I apologize in advance. When we control our look, we add the stuff here. Oh God, there's so much here. And we actually multiply our local rotation by this sort of setup. So instead of it just being equal, I'm gonna set it to multiply. Hey, I'm doing good. I'm trying to understand client-side prediction and build an entire new character controller. It's a little overwhelming. How are you doing? We're gonna need 2 private floats. One for camera pitch, like we already have, and one for camera yaw. I'm gonna set this to 0. And then we can take that yaw in here. And then that should be what actually updates our camera rotations. Now we just have to get the camera rotation stuff from our mouse to these 2 variables. I am from California. I'm from the Bay Area. I'm born and raised. Yeah, it's not too special. Just like just the area. How about you? I've met actually a couple of people doing the little streaming thing that are like from Florida, and a bunch of people in like the Middle East, which is crazy. Okay, so now we just want to, and I'm just gonna copy this. I don't care. My morals don't hold grace for that. You're from Florida. Sweet. I don't like. I think it's interesting because that means it's like 6 over there for you. I think it's interesting like when people are able to like actually watch Twitch. Can I tell you in detail what I'm doing? Okay, so let's see. I'm gonna open up a really old. Not really old. It's like a couple days old demo. So this is the like live build of my game. I'm going to hook up these 2 instances. So we have one that is the host, and I'm just going to set the map to something where it gets a little more exaggerated. So I'm having an issue with the one that is the instance that I'm actually moving on right now. That's the host. And moving around on the host feels fine. And it's about as snappy as I think it can be. And then when we get on the client, I can move around and it feels pretty good. But eventually, after I do enough movement stuff, we'll start seeing the player sort of like jolt back into a place. which is caused by a desync between the server and the client. And I unfortunately built most of the character controller stuff back in January. So both the character controller that I am basing everything off of and the network library that I am using have matured and have changed some of their code bases. So I'm effectively trying to build from the ground up a new character controller that I can just swap in for the current one, that doesn't have these desyncing issues. Yeah, so it's unfortunately it's going to take a long time. Like, there's absolutely no way I finish it in the next couple of hours. Oh, hey, look at that. We just crashed one instance. Boop. But I just, the goal today is to just get basic movement and then jumping and maybe crouching working. So yeah, it's gonna be like a long process, I think, because it's effectively rebuilding a couple months of work from the ground up. But if I do it right, then I don't have to do it again. And I can even like copy paste the character controller into another game. So yeah, let's see, where was I? That is the other instance. So we're trying to get, been watching the stream for about 30 minutes, I think. A lot of, yeah, you think it's gonna take a while? Cause I agree. I'm also like not the greatest game developer nor programmer, so I have to like learn a lot of this stuff on the fly, which is fun. That should be a plus. It's interesting that they have just a straight set for the pitch, but they add to an existing value for the yaw. I feel like that would cause it to maybe, I mean, not stutter, but it wouldn't be as fluid. I guess that would mean stutter. And then we can just steal this. We don't even need to do some sort of max calculation. Okay. I wonder how this is getting called if it's not actually getting set up, and it's like creating a new thing that you can override, but it's not actually calling anything itself. Okay. So now I'm gonna close that out. We want our look input. So this is where on our player driver we will control a lot of, like, we'll take in all of the mouse input and we'll shove that somewhere. I'm gonna leave out this cursor lock state thing because that's gonna just kind of be a pain when I have multiple instances of the game open. And then in our mono behavior we have our update. So I'm gonna sort of split this up into two regions. We're gonna have movement input, and we're gonna have a look input region. There we can have like a handler that takes all of the movement stuff here, or anything that would be called an update. Private void input handler. And we can call it like that, and then we can do like a look input handler. And that's where we can steal this. Whoop. Okay. I'm gonna steal these. I'm basically stealing the entire component, but I don't really care about the tooltips. I'm pretty sure the variables are named well enough that I can figure out what they mean. Okay, so we get our access information. Do I play any games? Not. I haven't like really experimented with playing games on stream. Sometimes I unfortunately play a lot of Destiny 2, but whenever I like try and stream it, it lags my computer too much, and it ends up tanking the stream. So I've just been doing development stuff right now. But I play Destiny, admittedly, unfortunately. And then other than that, I don't know, Minecraft, Animal Crossing, stuff that like helps me relax, because sometimes programming is stressful. How about you? What games do you play? I will be as unjudgmental as possible, but there's a couple games where it's like okay. We're just gonna wanna hold the look inputs. We don't need this at all. Y equals that. Okay. I cannot type. Okay, I think we've stolen as much as we can here. Yeah, so what's kind of funny, so I actually bought this microphone because I had a blue snowball, and I just I wanted something that felt a little more professional, and I also wanted to be able to do this because I like having things to fidget with. And then the other reason is because I wanted to be able to hear myself. My parents, back when I used to live with them, were like, hey, you're kind of loud. Maybe when you play games, you could like tone it down. And so I have an interface that allows me to hear how loud I am. And it has like a little tiny indicator. So if it goes red, that means I'm being way, way too loud. Yeah. But no, I mean, ultimately, like the gear can be professional, but I am not a professional. I just do this for fun. And as an excuse to like actually work on my game. Okay, so we grab a look vector. Butter popcorn. I love butter popcorn. Do you like watch movies or stuff while you do I'm assuming that means that that's supposed to say pending work. Thank you. I think I need to get better at talking to chat before I would actually consider myself a professional, but I appreciate the compliment. Okay, so in our struct, we're gonna need read only, and this is gonna be a vector 2. We'll call it look. This channel's like Netflix. Thank you. Oh god. Okay. And then we gotta steal. I'm gonna reference a variable that does not exist yet, and then we'll go from there. Okay. And we grab that. We can actually send it into our struct, which we'll just grab here. And then in simulate, we get to actually apply it all. Yeah, would you like to ask? Sorry, I super stuttered when I said the word ask. But yeah, no, ask away. Ask anything. How do I want to handle actually using the look? I think. Because that doesn't even get called. We add all the stuff. Skilled graphic designer. Yeah, I can offer feedback. Here, let me. I usually just send people to my Discord and then I can have them find my my account and then they can send me stuff there. But yeah, as long as it's all PG, I'm down to look at it. I probably won't show it on stream, but yeah, no, I'm down to look. My Discord username, it should be Wiki NHN. Here. Right there. Here we're probably going to do playerpawn.add. Ooh. Which one is yaw and which one is pitch? We're gonna have an add yaw and an add pitch. Which one's which? Let's see. I do not see a request. It's not working. Interesting. That is my Discord. I don't know why. If I post this somewhere else, it should be. Yeah. I mean, here, worst case, let's just, yeah, let's see if I can send you one. Alright, I should have sent one. If not, well, then there's bigger issues. There we go. Okay, so this takes. Oh, it shouldn't be input, it should just be pitch. Okay, and then we can just take our look input. Look dot pitch is yaw is X and pitch is Y. Whoa. md.look.x. Okay. And now the fun part is we get to see if any of this actually works. I'm going to make that public just so I can call it. And I got to actually set up the character. Oh, sweet. There's a lot of stuff. So do you like make art for streamers? I do wonder, why don't do you have like a place to host all of these? Or is it, I think that actually, hold on, let me actually click the link. Yeah, I mean, a lot of this is good. I mean, obviously, like it's almost all topical for the streamer and their own brand, but this is good. It's a lot better than I could do. Okay, gotta get this working. So first thing is we have to actually edit the prefab that we are putting everything under. So we need to make it empty. We'll call this the root, and then we'll make another empty. We'll call this the eye, and then under that we can put a camera. Just clip that down there. And then on our player pawn, we can go here. We have our camera, we have our root, and we have our eye. I believe that we can just... Is it on the player driver? What am I... Wait a minute. Oh, this will be fun. Ooh, that's cool. Would I like something like that for my channel? Not at the moment. I am doing this just for funsies, and I don't really feel like that was a seizure. Oh my god. I don't really feel like putting any money into anything right now. And I also don't really have like established branding or anything. So I'm all right for now, but thank you for offering. Yeah, that's fun. We, huh. How long has it been since I did not update that? That's super interesting. I mean, yeah, a logo is a basic need for every streamer, but at the same time, like, I see a lot of streamers just using a profile picture. I don't necessarily feel the need to go out and brand myself yet. I like turn myself into a brand. I feel like I'm all right. Okay, let's just, if we, oh, this is the wrong one. If we just don't handle this, does it still work? It's gonna be a very good question. We can remove that, and let's go. You are welcome to share them with me, but I am not going to be paying for anything. I am just doing this as a hobby, so I don't feel. Ooh, that's fast. Okay. You know what? It has not been too long. I can just store the previous commit. Let that all recompile. Okay. Now let's let all this recompile and let's see where we went wrong. So here we have our player pawn, but we don't have a player driver. Nah, it's okay. I mean, it seems like you said you don't even have time to play games. I'm not gonna make you do free work. Okay. So now the player driver should just work. It should just work. It'd be really cool if it did. Okay, so we're moving around really fast. No, I don't even know really. I mean, you said earlier my stream was looking pretty professional, so I think I'm okay with how it is now. Okay, so now we get to figure out how to slow this thing down. That's fun. Okay. I mean, let me make sure that it's working at the same speed for everyone. And if it is, we're going to be doing okay. I'm going to close that. Okay, and then if we do this, okay, at least players move around at the right speed, and I can drag this off. Sweet. Okay, so players move quickly, but it's still working, and as far as input is concerned, it's working all right. Input lag, I should say. Okay, so now we can actually implement some of this stuff. Let's tune the character. Oh my god, I can't believe I did like 30 minutes worth of work and we hadn't even actually fully implemented the old stuff. Okay. So jump impulse. Yeah, we'll do. I mean, if I ever start making money, I'll reach out, but I have no need to put any money into this at the moment. It really is a vessel for me to force myself to work on the game as well as talk to people, and that's really all I want to do right now. That's moving a little better. I mean, it's kind of jittery, but I bet if I built it, that'd go away. Yeah, there we go. Okay, and if I was to remove this entirely and just have another instance loaded up. Okay, the little the eye moving around is quite comical. Okay, now let's do a little bit of tuning. I'm gonna get this guy to be able to double jump, and then let's set this back to 5 and see if it still thinks it's going crazy. Okay, that's a normal amount of jump. Yeah. Okay. All right. I think that's actually a good place where I think I'm gonna call it, because I've sort of I really just needed a couple hours to get this off the ground, and now that it is, I can sort of do other things. It's been a good little testing session. I wish that I didn't spend half an hour trying to figure out why something wasn't being implemented properly, and when it just wasn't even on the character. But yeah, this was good. Short stream. I'm gonna be back tomorrow morning where we can actually continue this thing. I'll see you. Peace. Mm-hmm.